Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm showing you how to do no line coloring using distress markers. To start out, I have printed the Ava digital stamp from Saturated Canary and I've faded her out so she's not as dark as she would be otherwise. Then I'm coloring her in like I normally do with distress markers by putting the lightest shade first where the shadows would be. So for that, for skin tones I use Antique Linen, and then I go in with Brush Corduroy and I put that in the same area but a smaller amount. Those are the only two colors that I use for skin tones, and I think it gives it a really nice effect. However, when you do no line coloring, it is going to look very dark and weird when you do this at first. But this is what I normally use when I color faces, and it does look great once you color the whole image in. So right now that's looking very dark, but once I go ahead and add the rest, it'll look nice. So I'm just drying that so I can continue with the hair afterwards. So I'm going in with some scattered straw where the highlights of her hair would be. Right now when I blend that out with the water brush, it's looking a bit weird because it's the reverse of what it would be otherwise, but I just use this color to get the color of their hair. So I'm drying that, and then I will go in with the next color, which is Brushed Corduroy again. I really like this color because you can use it for both the skin tone and for the hair. So I'm just flicking that in from the edges like I do with Pro markers and Flex markers. The reason why I flick it is so I hope to keep some of that flicking motion when I go back in with the water brush, because when I use this it does take away a lot of that hair effect. I also like to go in the area where I put the color and just make that wet, and then once I've done that I go back and color the light area. This just helps me keep the light area. So next I'm going in with Walnut Stain, and I'm just adding a small amount of this where it would be the darkest. I'm also doing flicking motions when I do this. And then as well with this color I go in where the color is and blend that out a bit, and then I go where the lightest area is. As you can see, I have a tissue in my other hand so I can clean off the tip of the brush. This is so that the brush is always clean and it doesn't get any dark color where I don't want it. I can also use that where I want to remove some color. So here I'm adding a bit of water onto the lightest areas, and then I'm just using the tissue to remove that color. So now I'm going ahead and coloring the rest of the image using the colors on the screen, and I'm using the same technique as before. And this is how it looks. Right now you can't really see the lines, which is the whole purpose of no line coloring. And I think this looks really great, and it makes the image look more realistic and a bit different. So now I'm just using a black marker and coloring in the string of the balloon. And I've just sped up the video here because it took me quite a while to color in all the string. But to do this, I just follow the lines that are already there. They're just a bit hard to see. I also color in the black of her eye, and I changed marker here because it's a lot easier with this one. It's easier to control. Once I've filled in her eyes, I'm going in with a colored pencil, and I'm just sharpening up the edges of what I've colored. This is really nice to do because it helps keep the image clean and looks a lot nicer and professional. So I'm just going around all the areas and I'm changing colour so it fits the colour that I've drawn with previously. Next I'm going in with some barn door and I'm just adding the red to the buttons on the shoes. I'm then going in with my black pen again and just going around the outside of those buttons. I'm also adding 2 small dots in one of them to make it look a bit more like a button. So now that piece is done, I've cut it down slightly and now I'm taking the birthday messages stamp set from Simon Says Stamp and I'm stamping that with some Memento Tuxedo black ink onto the piece. I'm stamping it here off to the side, lining it up with the stamp press that I'm using. So now I'm just taking the crushed olive marker and with the fine tip I'm just going around the outside with dashed lines. I also filled in a bit on the balloon where I'd missed out. I think adding these dashed lines just makes the card look a lot more complete and it brings the whole piece together. Once I've done that, I'm taking some Nina Solar White 110-pound cardstock and I'm just scoring that in half using my cutting board. Once I've done that, I'm adding some double-sided tape onto the back of the watercolored piece and then I will be adding that to the cardstock. I use quite a lot of double-sided tape to do this because when you add water to a piece of paper it warps and with the adhesive it just helps it stay down. So I'm just centering that onto the front of the card and then it is done. I'm just folding the card and using my bone folder to crease it. Yep, now the card is done. Here is a picture of the final card. Just like for normal no-line coloring with pro markers and flex markers, this is a very versatile technique which can be used for almost anything. You can color in whatever image you want with this and it just makes it look a lot more realistic. So I really hope you play around with this technique and I'll see you next week. Bye!